So how it's going to work essentially is I'm going to read through it. You guys can think or write down what you think the passage or that excerpt is trying to say, those 3-4 lines, and then we're going to go through it and talk about what they actually mean. So you can kind of compare if what you're thinking is correct or not. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah? Any questions? So the first thing we're going to go through is the poem Epistle from Inside the Sharknado by Fran Locke. For the people at home, what we'll do is I'll let them check the description box and all the passages will be down in there. So on the second page, the analysis page, we have the excerpts all broken down to section by section. So we'll go through the first one, and I'll give you guys about a minute, 30 seconds, 2 minutes to kind of go through it, write down what you think, and then what we'll do is we'll go through what it actually means. Just look on the second page under analysis. Okay, actually, before we start that, I'll first give you a bit of a background in terms of what it's about. So essentially, it's about like a tornado with sharks in it. It's about like about the end of the world. It's like apocalyptic. Everyone's running from these sharks that are flying out of the air. It's actually adapted from like a movie. So we'll go through it as we read through it. You might call it God, might witness the weather's disjointed volition, and figure it biblical payback. For all your long decades of self-defeating industry, the gases in the atmosphere, the poison in the water. So I'll give you guys about 30 seconds. Go through and write down what you think it means. And then what we'll do is I'll go through and explain to you what it actually means. All right, so let's go through it now. Manvi, do you want to tell me what you think those 4 lines mean?
Are examples of bad things that people think God did it?
Okay, so you're saying they're bad things that are happening that you think God is doing it? Okay, so we're going to go through it. You might call it God. So essentially it is something that's happening, right? You might call it God, might witness the weather's disjointed volition. So it's saying that you might witness the weather's disjointed. Disjointed essentially means stopping and starting, right? So pretty much like the weather outside now. So it's like it's thundering, raining right now, but like it's starting and stopping, right? And figure it biblical payback. So it's saying you think it is biblical payback. So you think it's something to do with the Bible. You think it like God's like giving you payback. For all your long decades of self-defeating industry. So it's saying God's paying back, giving payback to you like revenge. For all your decades. Decades is like 10 years. So many tens of years of self-defeating industry. Industry means like things that like work and things that you've been doing. So self-defeating. So I'm assuming it would be stuff like pollution, damaging the environment, and all those things that are bad to like the things around us. Yeah. The gases in the atmosphere, the poison in the water. So essentially that tells you what it is. When people release the gases into the atmosphere and then the poison and pollute the poison in the water. Does that make sense? Yeah. Good. Next one. And you might stand on your lawn in your shorts, running a scream up a flagpole, sniffing catastrophes rank surfeit on the bilious air. You might for all I know. Okay, so I'll give you guys 30 seconds to write it. It's saying you might stand on your lawn in your shorts, running a scream up a flagpole. So it's saying you might like run up the flagpole screaming, shouting, etc. Yeah? Rank, sniffing catastrophes rank. Rank means like smelly, like disgusting. Surfeit on the bilious air. So it's saying you can smell the catastrophe in the air. That's what it's saying. Okay? You might, for all I know. So it's saying you might, for all I know, be doing these things. Okay? The next one, for all I care, you could be crouching in the rainy basements, debating plague or commies with the can of beans, courting immortality with forward planning until your lungs fill up with sand like canvas punching bags. So go through that one about 30 seconds and we'll go through it together. All right, so let's go through that one. Who's written something down for that piece? Yep, Pratush at the back. Yep, good. It says, for all I care, you could be crouching in the rainy basements. So people hiding in their basements, debating plague or commies with cans of beans. So the beans are there to kind of be, it's pretty much for food if they have to stay under the ground in the basement for many days, right? And it says people are debating whether it's plague or commies. So people are saying that they're kind of debating, is it like a plague that's going outside that's causing this drama, or is it the commies? Commies is just short for communists. Right? Because this would have been written in America, and America is democratic. It's one of those countries, and it's pretty much a lot of the Americans are scared of is the communist type of society, which is just a different way of how society works. You don't have to know it, but essentially some countries are communist, like China, Russia. All of them were communist a long time ago. So essentially, it's just saying people are just in their basements hiding from whatever is going outside, like wondering, is it the communists who are here? is it the plague or disease that is here, right? And it says, courting immortality with forward planning until your lungs fill up with sand like canvas punching bags. So it's saying you're courting immortality. So it's saying you're courting, you're playing with immortality. So you're trying to live as long as you can, live forever, right? In the basement. With forward planning. So you're trying to live forever with your planning. So you plan forwards by putting beams in there, by putting water, by building those underground structures. You're trying to court immortality. Until your lungs fill up with sand. So when you're under there there's so much dust, it's so dusty, dirty, that that's all the air you're breathing. You're not kind of circulating the air. So what it's saying is, essentially it fills up with sand like canvas punching bags. Okay? Any questions? No? All right, next one. It means nothing to me. The human world, the humorless delinquencies, the corkscrew politics of plunder and of blame, victims of this or that, rolling a moistened eye to camera. I see you, surrounded by dripping debris. In the local anchor's sallow limelight, angling and righteous. Nuke the sharks. It will not save you. I will come again. Right? So, about 20-30 seconds, try to write what you think that means, and we'll go through it. It means nothing to me. So, essentially it means, what it's saying is, what the humans are doing, hiding in the basements, trying to be immortal, all of that means nothing to me. Okay? It means nothing to me, the human world. Humorless delinquencies. So it's saying the human world is filled with humorless. Humorless means not funny. Delinquencies. So the shark is saying humans are doing bad things which are not funny. Okay? The corkscrew politics of plunder and of blame. So it's saying the humans, the government, they're doing bad things. They're blaming each other. They're plundering. So they're stealing from people. They're corrupt. They're not doing the right things. They're being very corrupt and not fair. Right? Victims of this or that, rolled a moistened eye to camera. So it's saying that victims of these tragedies done by the politics and the bad things that society has done, the victims, they rolling a moistened eye to the camera. So what does that mean? A moistened eye. So essentially means that they're crying on camera, right? I see you surrounded by dripping debris in the local anchor's sallow limelight, angling and righteous. So it's saying, so the shark has seen essentially the news recordings of the victims of these corrupt and unfair behaviors. They've seen essentially the victims, and the victims are on the news stations, just pretty much telling the story with a tear in their eye, very sad. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah. So that's what it's saying. So the shark is saying, I've seen all these things happen, right? And it says, nuke the sharks, it will not save you. I will come again. So it's saying, destroy us, nuke us, which is pretty much a bomb, right? Nuke us if you have to. It will not save you. We will come again. Does that make sense? Yep. Ira? Let's keep going. We will come, seismic and genderless, thick sleeves of meat, working the humid air like a grudge. You'd better run. You'd better equip yourself with guns and chainsaws. Consult a TV psychic. Burn your money. Shave your head. Sell your kids. Anything at all. I'm coming round again. We are coming. Driven by insomnia's deficient logics. Our no escape velocity. Okay? About 20-30 seconds to go through that one, and then write down what you think it means, and then we'll go through it. Okay? Okay, so who's written something for that second one? Nico.
So he's basically threatening the reader and telling him that about things that are going to happen in the future, and he should prepare for it.
Pretty close. The other thing that it also talks about, so yes, it does say, prepare for it. There's nothing much you can do. We'll just go through one at the time for two, it's one per thing. But essentially what it's saying is that what you said, where it's just saying prepare yourself, but it's also saying do whatever you have to do to prepare yourself, right? We're coming in as a big force. If you want to prepare, you do whatever you got to do, right? So it says, we will come. Seismic and genderless. So it says genderless just means gender, male, female. Genderless just means everyone looks exactly the same. All the sharks look the same. Seismic means massive, so it's a huge force. Thick sleeves of meat working the humid air like a grudge. So it's just saying they're huge cylinders of meat like the sharks, and they're just flying through the humid air, right? You'd better run. You better equip yourself with guns and chainsaws. So here it's saying do whatever you have to do. Equip yourself with guns, chainsaws, consult a TV psychic, burn your money, shave your head, sell your kids, anything at all. So it's saying pretty much do whatever you have to do to kind of survive. I am coming round again. we are coming, driven by insomnia's deficient logics, our no escape velocity. So it's saying we are coming again, and we're driven by insomnia means they don't sleep, deficient logic, so they're just coming, then just over and over just keep coming at society, humans. Our no escape velocity, so it's saying you can't escape us. That's how fast we're going, you can't escape. Yes, Kevin. Let's keep going. You will know us by the shine of our endangered Kevlar. My exoskeleton corset rips your fingers into kelp. You might call it God, but it's not God. Okay, so we'll go through this one quickly. So essentially it's saying you will know us by endangered Kevlar, like the shine. So it's saying you will know us that we're here when you see our shiny skin, right? Our Kevlar. My exoskeleton corset rips your finger into kelp. So it's saying that they have like exoskeleton. All the sharks don't, but apparently these guys do have exoskeleton. Yeah, it says, and it rips your fingers into kelp. So it's very sharp. They're very like dangerous, right? You might call it God, but it's not God. So it's saying you might call us God, that God is coming, but we're not God. Okay, next one. Kelp means like seaweed. So it's saying it looks like it rips your skin into seaweed. Okay, next one. The sky is singing with nature's maniac gusto. It's the only game in town. Come, hurtle over the swooning horizon. Stare into my flat screen eye and tell me human, is it not so? So this one, what it's saying is the sky is singing with nature's maniac gusto. So the sky is like storming, just like outside. It's noisy, it's loud. So it's like it's singing, it's as if nature's crazy. It's the only game in town. Come, hurtle over the swooning horizons. So when it says it's the only game in town, it just means that's the only thing that's happening in town right now. Come, hurtle over the swooning horizon. Stare into my flat screen eye. So it's saying come and like hurtling. Hurtle means like running, right? Hurtle over the swooning horizon and stare at my flat screen eye and tell me human, it is not so. So it's saying look at me and tell me that you can't believe what's going on right now. Next one. All right, passage number 2, the archaic fiction. So let's go through the first one. So this one's Frankenstein. Some of you might remember it, but let's go through it one by one. I lay on my straw, but I could not sleep. I thought of the occurrences that day. What chiefly struck me... Okay, so before we do that, actually, I'll first describe what's going on here. So essentially what happened was Frankenstein is pretty much a very hideous creature, and no one likes the look of him. Everyone chases him away as soon as they see him. And so here what's happened is he's been chased away from the town, and essentially he's hiding in the countryside near a farmhouse, okay? And he's now near that farmhouse and just telling and just narrating. This is the monster talking, right? In the story, in the book, Frankenstein's the scientist, and the monster is just called the monster. So, I lay on my straw, but I could not sleep. I thought of the occurrences of the day. What chiefly struck me was the gentle manners of these people, and I longed to join them, but I dare not. I remember too well the treatment I had suffered the night before from the barbarous villagers, and resolved, whatever course of conduct I might hereafter think it right to pursue, that for the present I would remain quietly in my hovel, watching and endeavoring to discover the motives which influence their actions. So, for people at home, the text is in the description box below, the link to it. For people here, go through it. You got about 20 seconds. Jot down notes on what you think that means, and we'll go through it together. All right, so let's go through that one. Yes, what do you think it means, Nikhil?
So the monster, he wants to join the humans, but he thinks they'll just vanish him away. But they think he thinks he will just stay near and just watch how they do things, and
Yeah.
so he can adapt to the culture.
Pretty close. The main thing what it's saying is he's pretty much describing how he was treated before by other humans, and he's pretty much hiding in the away from the farmhouse to have a think about what went wrong and why they treated him in that particular way. So if we go through it, I lay on my straw but I could not sleep. So he's sleeping on like a straw bed, which is dried grass. I thought of the occurrences of the day. So he thought about what happened during the day, right? What chiefly struck me was the gentle manners of these people. So he's watching these people in the farmhouse, okay? So their gentle manners is what struck him. And I longed to join them, but dared not. So he really wanted to join them, but he didn't dare to. I remembered too well the treatment I had suffered the night before from the barbarous villagers. So it says he was scared of joining them because he still remembers what happened last night, where he pretty much suffered a lot of aggression, and he was the target of a lot of aggression, a lot of discrimination from the villagers, right? I had suffered from the night before from the barbarous villagers, and resolved whatever course of conduct I might hereafter think it right to pursue, that for the present I would remain quietly in my hovel. So essentially, let's go through it word by word. whatever course of conduct, so whatever course of conduct just means whatever I decide to do, I might hereafter think it right. So it says after that happened, I think it's right to pursue, to follow, that for the present means for now, I would remain quietly in my hovel. So I'll remain quietly in my home. So it's saying, essentially what it's saying, after what happened last night, I have decided that I will act from now on by just staying where I am and staying hidden, watching and endeavoring to discover the motives which influence their actions. So it's saying, I want to hide in this like barn house and just watch them and understand why people act like that to me, and also why the people are acting very kindly to each other, the people in the homes essentially. Yes, let's keep going. The cottagers arose the next morning before the sun. The young woman arranged the cottage and prepared the food, and the youth departed after the first meal. So we'll go through that directly because it's very easy. So essentially it's saying the cottagers arose the next morning, so they got up the next morning before the sun. The young woman arranged the cottage and prepared the food. So she arranged the cottage, which essentially means she pretty much was doing a little bit of cleaning, setting things up for the day, just arranging things in the house, and prepared the food. So she was essentially cooking, right? And the youth departed after their first meal. So the young people of the household, they pretty much left the house after their first meal. Okay? Next one. The day was passed in the same routine as that which preceded it. The young man was constantly employed out of doors, and the girl in various laborious occupations within. The old man, whom I soon perceived to be blind, employed his leisure hours on his instrument or in contemplation. Nothing could exceed the love and respect which the youngest cottagers exhibited towards their vulnerable companion. They performed towards him every little office of affection and duty with gentleness, and he rewarded them with his benevolent smiles. Okay, so with old comprehensions, just go through it. If you get stuck, remember how we were reading, we kind of got stuck in that previous one, and I broke it just down into phrases by phrases. So you guys will know, I've told you guys many times before, if there's something that you don't understand, like a sentence, just break it down into the individual words, understand those individual words or phrases, then bring the meanings together. Okay? The day was passed in the same routine as which preceded it. So say this day, the same things happened as the day that preceded. Precede means before. So the same things happened as the day before. Okay? The young man was constantly employed out of doors, and the girl in various laborious occupations within. So it's saying the young man did a lot of work outside of the house, and the girl did a lot of jobs within the house. Okay? The old man, who I soon perceived to be blind, so he pretty much figured out that the old man was blind. Okay? Yeah? So he figured out the old man was blind, employed his leisure hours on his instrument or in contemplation. So essentially, he spent his hours just sitting there playing his instrument or just thinking about things, just sitting there by himself, not talking, right? Nothing could exceed the love and respect which the younger cottagers exhibited towards their venerable companion, right? So it's saying nothing could exceed the love and respect the young people in the family had towards the older man, the venerable companion. Do you guys know what venerable means? Yeah, Ralph? Respected? Yeah, that's correct. Good. They performed towards him every little office of affection and duty with gentleness. So everything they did, it was with a lot of affection, care, love, and a lot of gentleness. So the young people were very nice towards, it's probably their grandfather, right? Or father. And he rewarded them by his benevolent smiles. Benevolent is like kind, the kind smiles. Okay? Next one. They were not entirely happy. The young man and his companion often went apart and appeared to weep. I saw no cause for their unhappiness, but I was deeply affected by it. If such lovely creatures were miserable, and it was less strange that I, an imperfect and solitary being, should be wretched. Yet why were these beings, gentle beings, unhappy? They possessed a delightful house, for such it was in my eyes, and every luxury. They had a fire to warm them when chill, and delicious viands when hungry. They were dressed in excellent clothes, and still more, they enjoyed one another's company and speech, interchanging each day looks of affection and kindness. What did their tears imply? Did they really express pain? It was at first unable to solve these questions, but perpetual attention and time explained to me many appearances which were at first enigmatic. Okay, so go through that one and we'll go through it together. They were not entirely happy, right? So it's saying that the family was not happy. The young man and his companion often went apart and appeared to weep. So it looked like that they went like aside on the one side of the house where the other family members weren't there, and they seemed to cry. I saw no cause of their unhappiness, but I was deeply affected by it. So he says that he doesn't see a reason for them to be unhappy, but the monster, the Frankenstein's monster, he was affected by it. He felt very saddened by it. If such lovely creatures were miserable, it was less strange that I, an imperfect and solitary being, should be wretched. So he's saying that if such, apparent perfect creatures and wonderful creatures, humans, if they were sad, then a person like me who is, not perfect, who is like rejected by everyone, it makes sense for me to be sad, right? If they're sad, then I must be sad. Okay? Why were these gentle beings unhappy? So why were they unhappy? They possessed a delightful house, for such it was in my eyes, and every luxury. So they had every like luxury that they could want. They had a fire to keep them warm when it was chill. They had delicious viands when they were hungry, so they had a lot of food. They were dressed in excellent clothes, and still more, they enjoyed one another's company and speech. They had each other, interchanging everyday looks of affection and kindness. So they looked at each other with kindness and affection and love every day. What did their tears imply? So saying, why did they cry? Did they really express pain? So it's saying, are they really pained? Are they really suffering with sadness? I was at first unable to solve these questions, but perpetual attention and time explained to me many appearances which were at first enigmatic. So it's saying that after he pays attention to them with a lot of detail, then he realized over time why they were like that, and explained to me many experiences which were at first enigmatic. So it's saying a lot of things which at first were very enigmatic, which means very interesting, confusing, and after a while it became clear why they were sad. Okay. A considerable period elapsed before I discovered one of the causes of uneasiness of this amiable family. It was poverty. They suffered that evil in a very distressing degree. Their nourishment consisted entirely of the vegetables of the garden and the milk of one cow, which gave very little during the winter, when its masters could scarcely procure food to support it. They often, I believe, suffered from the pangs of hunger very poignantly, which just means strongly. Especially the two younger cottagers. For several times they placed food before the old man when they reserved none for themselves. Okay, so let's go through that one. The considerable period elapsed, so it's saying a long time passed before I discovered why they were uneasy, why this wonderful family was uneasy and unhappy. It was poverty, so it's saying poverty was the reason, right? And they suffered that evil in a very distressing degree. So it's saying they were so poor that their situation was distressing. It was the disaster, their situation. It was very worrying. Their nourishment consisted entirely of the vegetables of their garden and the milk of one cow. So it says that all the energy that they got, right, was from all the vegetables, just the vegetables that they grew. They couldn't afford to buy anything, so they just had to eat the vegetables they had and the milk from one cow. And which gave very little during the winter. Then when its masters could scarcely produce food to support it. So in the winter, when all the grass and crops couldn't grow and they had nothing to feed the cow, there was also less milk. Okay? So at the end of the day, pretty much, during the winter, they didn't have enough milk, didn't have enough food. They often, I believe, suffered the pangs of hunger very poignantly. So the monster believes very often the cottagers would feel hunger very strongly. Okay? Especially the two younger cottagers. So the two younger people in the family felt hunger very often. For several times they placed food before the old man when they reserved none for themselves. So it's saying a lot of times they put food in front of the old man and fed their grandfather or father, and they didn't keep any food for themselves. Okay? This trait of kindness moved me sensibly. I had been accustomed during the night to steal a part of their store for my own consumption. But when I found that in doing this I inflicted pain on the cottagers, I abstained and satisfied myself with berries, nuts and roots which I gathered from a neighboring wood. So here what it says is essentially this trait of kindness. So the trait of kindness that it's talking about is the fact that the cottagers were very nice to the grandfather or father, right? So it's saying essentially that this act of kindness moved me sensibly. So it said that it made him feel strong emotions of like respect, of like amazement. Essentially he's really blown away by how nice they are to their older like family member. I had been accustomed during the night to steal a part of their store for my own consumption. So he's saying during the night, he usually would steal food from where they kept food to eat it for himself. Okay? But when I found that in doing this, I inflicted pain on the cottagers, I abstained and satisfied myself with berries, nuts, and roots. So it says, but when he found out that they were running out of food, he stopped stealing their food. right? He stopped stealing their food and gathered berries, and he says, I abstained, which means he stopped, and satisfied myself. So satisfied just means make yourself happy. So when he says he made himself happy, essentially just means like pretty much eliminated his own hunger. That's what it means, by getting the berries, nuts, and roots from a neighboring wood. So he collected the food, what he ate, from woods nearby. Does that make sense? Yep.